really love to engage you around faith and spirituality and
Yeah.
self-compassion. Most of my empirical work has been very ecumenical and studying
Uh-huh.
spirituality inside and outside of religion.
Mhm.
So I'm really interested to hear how you connect self-compassion to different spiritual worldviews.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I first learned about self-compassion as I was learning about Buddhism. And so just to be totally upfront, for me, it was and it still is, and is it primarily a spiritual practice. And
Mhm,
again, if you think about it, moving away from identification with the separate self, that sense of the small human being into this larger interconnected self, you might say that your spiritual self, that self
mhm,
which connects to whether you think of it as a higher power or awake awareness or bigger consciousness. It almost doesn't, from my point of view, matter how you frame it,
mhm,
but moving away from this everyday limited self-critical mind to our
mhm,
higher self is really what you can think of as happening with self-compassion. Now I love it because if you're a diehard atheist or you aren't interested in anything spiritual and you're just like just the facts, ma'am, self-compassion works. Or if you're spiritual, and also it doesn't matter how you're spiritual. So for me, my pathway was Buddhism. But I
mhm.
remember once I taught a group of nuns. They asked me to give them a self-compassion workshop.
Awesome.
And I just, instead of them thinking of, I'm giving compassion to themselves, you just use the vehicle of Jesus. What
Mhm,
does it mean to have Jesus in your heart? Do you
mhm,
think Jesus would say to you the things you're saying to yourself? I don't think so. you know? And so you can use Jesus or other spiritual figures or a loving God, or, the important thing is the love. And I think spirituality and also faith-based religions, as long as you're focusing on the loving side of those, it's just a beautiful way to practice both
yeah,
compassion for self and others.
absolutely.
It's a perspective shift out of like our
Mhm,
everyday small limited self,
mhm,
that
mhm,
bigger the compassionate self which
mhm,
comes from your faith. That's
mhm,
exactly what you're doing. Again, what would Jesus say, or what would my Lord say?
mhm,
That you're moving into the space of compassion. And
mhm.
that's the key thing right there. You're moving out of the small, limited, um, kind of suffering self
Mhm,
into this large, loving, bigger self connected
mhm.
to the all, and what's amazing is actually not that difficult to do because you've had experiences coming from that place many
Mhm.
times before.
Right,
You just have
right.
to remind yourself to do it.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and with each positive experience, I can integrate into my identity, my narrative of I
Yes.
am a self-compassionate person and live into
Yeah.
that as opposed to be like, "Oh, I suck. I'm a shameful person."
Yeah. And remember, it's about being human.
Yes,
Jesus didn't say you
exactly.
had to be perfect to be loved.
Mhm.
Quite the opposite. you know?
Exactly, that is the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, then, okay, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Why does religion go so awry? So many people, not just in Christianity, are
Yeah.
recovering from so much shame and guilt, whether you're Catholic or you're Protestant. But tell me
Yeah.
your thoughts on why religion can end up really messing people up that way.
You want my honest thoughts?
I would say you don't have to be nice. You don't have, we're
Well,
unplugged here.
I mean, I just think that from my point of view, there are a million different ways through the doorway of what I would call
Mm,
oneness, love, compassion,
mhm,
like
mhm,
universal.
mhm,
I would call it probably like awareness, would be a term
mhm,
I would use, or awake awareness,
mhm,
awakening. A
mhm,
million doorways in. Every single
mhm,
religion has one. There's a million doorways into that room. But
mhm,
what happens, I think, sometimes when you're talking about people or in an organized religion, there's usually the founder, the
mhm,
teachers, or the
mhm,
saints who
mhm,
were very awake.
mhm,
And then the people who weren't so
mhm,
awake that start
mhm,
using some of these
mhm,
beliefs
mhm,
because they want to have power,
mhm,
power and
mhm,
control. I mean, that just seems to be part of the
mhm,
human condition.
mhm,
And so I think that the true messages start to become twisted,
mhm,
and shame is a really effective way
mhm,
to control people. And I don't know a lot about it. My mother was new age, so I don't wanna get above my pay grade. But I do think some of these human tendencies distort some of the beauty of the original messages of almost any religion. At the heart of every religion, I think, is or should be love. And
Mhm.
when that gets lost, it's, time to be a little independent thinker and go back to the source. Who founded this religion again? What did
It
they
it
actually say?
what did they actually do?
Yeah, what did
Yes.
they actually do? Yeah.
I'm gonna give you an amen for that line.